Howdy. So welcome back to part 2 of my warm weather veggie seed inventory. So hopefully if you saw part 1 of this video yesterday, we talked about cucumbers and squashes and things like that. So today's video is going to be, I'm trying really hard to keep my videos down to like half an hour or less, so y'all have to help me out here. So what I've got kind of spread out here to do is basically do the Solanaceae, which is basically peppers, eggplant, and the big salami tomatoes. Tomatoes, if I had only could grow one thing in my garden every year, it would have to be tomatoes. There is nothing like a homegrown tomato. One of my favorite quotes comes from Jessica Sowards at Roots and Refuge, that store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. And I am right there. If at all possible, one of these days, I hope to buy one of her t-shirts that has that saying on it, because that is me to a T. I hate wintertime if I haven't, because last year I didn't have a very good tomato crop for some reason. The weather was just really funky. But, I mean, I would rather eat frozen tomatoes or canned tomatoes that I get at the grocery store than go to the produce stand and get tomatoes that are supposed to be, you know, homegrown and kind of stuff. There's a bunch of greenhouses not too far from me. So if anyone lives in and around East Tennessee has heard of Granger County tomatoes. I guess they're good, but they don't taste anywhere near as good as an actual homegrown tomato. So Granger County, I'm not dissing you or anything like that, but I will put my homegrown stuff against your stuff any day of the week, taste-wise. Being able to ship out to different grocery stores and stuff like that, you probably have that all over what home gardeners can do, but taste-wise, do better. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so I have this kind of mapped out here to give it some flow, and we'll just kind of touch on each thing here. So I'm going to start off with what I'm going to call sweet peppers. Now, the only actual sweet bell pepperish type pepper that I actually grow is a variety called Chablis. I got this at SESE and such a couple years ago. I have never been able to grow a sweet bell pepper in my garden that actually could compete and compare with what you can grow in the grocery store. Kind of the backwardness of the homegrown tomato kind of deal. Never been. They either, you know, grow small and stay small, or if they grow to an actual usable size, the walls are so thin, you know, you might as well, I mean, you're basically eating pepper skin kind of deal. I got these guys, Chablis. I got these a couple years ago, grew them. They were really good. They actually grew. They weren't like super humongous, you know, giganto peppers or anything like that, but they had thicker walls. They were excellent on salads and things like that, and stir fried. And I really like the color changes they had, because it kind of starts out, they're kind of like this almost chartreusey kind of green. And then they mellow, they start moving over into like a yellow and then like an orange until they're full bright red. And they keep setting fruit all through. And you can, of course, sweet peppers, you can harvest at any time. You can harvest them green, you can harvest them, you know, on up until, you know, they're about to shrivel up and die on you. So I usually tend to like to go out and pick a couple of each different kind to chop up into a salad or a stir fry or something like that. One thing that I have found how to preserve peppers when they're not around, rather than dehydrating or pickling or anything like that. I just get a sheet pan for baking cookies. You can use it, that's just the sheet that doesn't have any walls to it, or you can get like the ones with the little 1/2-inch lip that goes all around. Either way, put down a sheet of parchment paper or aluminum foil or wax paper, just something, and cut up your peppers, remove the stem, remove the seeds, slice them up however you want to slice them. Generally with the bell peppers, I'll do them in strips. And then I throw them onto the sheet pan, say in a single layer. Throw them into the freezer for several hours until they're frozen solid. Take them out, throw them into a freezer like Ziploc bag or something like that. Put out the date, what they are, throw them back in the freezer. And there are still peppers in my freezer from like 2-3 years ago. So they stay forever. You kind of have to watch it sometimes. If you don't keep your freezers cleaned out, they can start getting the freezer funk, I call it. It's just that weird smell from all those different things being in the same area. So occasionally I'll go through it, I'll do a sniff test, and if it smells too funky, I'll just throw everything on the compost pile. But yeah, Chablis peppers, they're beautiful little peppers, and they grow well for me. I have found one thing about peppers of any kind, even the hot ones, where I'm at, and I've said this a couple times in my videos, I don't have a lot of shade. So they pretty much, everything out in my garden basically gets sun from sunrise to sunset. And even though peppers like hot weather, they don't like a lot of sun beating down on them. So what I found that works for me so far is I actually have a raised bed on the east side of my house. So they get morning sun up until noon, and then as the sun starts going over the top of the house, over to the west, they're shaded out, but they still grow, and they're doing really well. So they get a good, 6, 7, 8 hours of sun, depending on position and time of year kind of deal. So if you've ever had problems growing peppers of any kind, like they get sun scald and things like that, put them on the east side of your house and then go from there. Or use shade cloth, because they need sun, but they don't need it baking down on them, basically, is what I've found. At least for me. I mean, there's probably people in Arizona, in more desert areas, that get nothing but sun, that will tell me I'm wrong, but for me, that's what works for me. Second variety that's technically not a sweet, but for me it is a variety called pizza pepper. It looks very much like a jalapeno, and but it doesn't. It's not hot like a jalapeno. It's got a little bit of zip. I have no idea why it's called pizza pepper. It's not the pepperoncinis you get like in, when you go and get a pizza from the pizza restaurant or anything like that. I really don't know why it's called pizza, but it's got a little bit of a zip to it, but that's all. It's basically, I just use it as a sweet pepper as opposed to, and I use these guys when I'm making my hot pepper jelly. Instead of using like green, the bell peppers or something like that, I just use these guys along with my jalapenos, hot pepper jelly. I also have a variety. I saved some seeds from a variety, but I also just bought seeds from, I think it was Pinetree that I got them from. A variety called Felicity pepper. Here's my little seed saving jar. It's actually, appropriately, it's an old diced pimento pepper jar. And so I saved some seeds from a couple of my peppers from last year. No, year before. And we'll see if it actually works. I've been told that with peppers, if you look at them, if they're not F1 hybrids, they will probably breed true from seed, because even if you grow them with other peppers, I'm hoping, is the name of the guy, the Pepper Geek on YouTube here. I think I heard it from him. So if I'm wrong, I'll blame him. I won't really. But yeah, so I heard, so if I'm remembering correctly, and I'll have to go back and do some study, peppers don't generally they usually self-pollinate more than they get, pollinated from other bugs and stuff like that, bees and things. So I'm going to, just in case, because I'm really, the way the world is these days, I get a little nervous, if I look forward to buying seeds and things like that, if I'm going to be able to get the varieties I like. And I just kind of like the idea of saving my own seeds for certain things, just in case, because there actually used to be a variety of pumpkin that I really liked called Pam Pumpkin, for obvious reasons. And it was a nice little pie pumpkin. It was a good little pumpkin, and it didn't have problems. I don't know what's going on, if they took it off the market, why, if they're going to bring it back. But I ran out of seeds for it and went to go order more the next year and don't have any. I think there's a variety called Baby Pam at Johnny's, I want to say, that I saw, maybe. But I don't know if it's the same variety or not, so I'm hesitant. But yeah, so save seeds. Experiment if you've got a heirloom or an open pollinated pepper, tomato, eggplant. I think peppers and eggplants don't have a tendency to cross-pollinate as much as tomatoes can. But if you really, really want to, you can. And it takes some effort. I have not tried this yet. But you can take a little soft paintbrush of a variety of tomatoes that you like and take pollen from one of the other flowers on the same plant, dab it onto the flower that you want to develop into a tomato and get the seeds from that tomato. And then after you do that, you tie a little mesh bag that bugs can't get through. They make those little organza type bags that have the little tie thing on. Of course, the bag has to be big enough for the resulting tomato, so keep that in mind. But and then yeah, when that tomato develops, you can harvest it after it ripens and then save the seeds from that. If you want to go that far, I haven't gone that far. Tomato or peppers, eggplants, I have a chance. I'll do that. So I've got Felicity. When I do the new seeds that I just got in, I also got some of the pizza peppers, also from 2021. But I also have 2 packs of the pizza peppers. So you can see I kind of like pizza peppers, and I really like the Felicity. Felicity also looks like a jalapeno, but it is no heat whatsoever. So I'll use those again with my pepper jelly and stuff like that. And if I'm not feeling exactly adventurous and I want to make like stuffed jalapenos, bacon wrapped jalapenos and stuff like that, I'll use the Felicity or the pizza peppers before I use the regular hot jalapenos. Okay. I love, love, love pimento cheese. And I realized that I could grow my own pimento peppers to make my own pimento cheese. And so I have a variety here that works really well for me. It was first developed in Ashe County, North Carolina, I believe. And North Carolina, or is it Tennessee? North Carolina. Okay. I know it's somewhere around my area. So what I do with these guys, I plant 3 or 4, depending on how, adventurous I feel like being. Because my goal here is to get a lot of these things, because they're kind of small. They're maybe palm size kind of deal. And what I will do is they have to fully ripen to red before you can use them I've used them green. It just doesn't have the same appeal. And then what I do is I bring them inside. I rinse them off real good, get them dry, put them on a sheet pan, throw them in the oven about 350 degrees until they are malleable, for want of a better word. They're kind of cooking inside, but you don't want to go too far so that, you know, they're just mush kind of deal. So take them out, and I either will throw them into a bowl and cover them with saran wrap to let them steam, or if I can see already that the skin is already starting to peel away, I will just peel off the skin, pull out the stem, kind of with my finger, just kind of remove as many of the seeds as I can. And this is after it's cooled down, of course. Cut it into strips and then into chunks. And then I take just cheap ice cube trays. You can get them at Dollar Tree or anything like that. And you just put mounds of these little chopped up pieces of pimento peppers into the freezer. Each of those little cubbies for the freezer tray to make, you know, basically for the ice. Freeze it, and then you can take them out, get them out of the ice tray holder, throw those into a Ziploc bag, throw those back into the freezer, and then I will have, you know, depending on how many I've actually able to harvest and do that to, I can have, you know, pimento peppers to make pimento cheese all winter long until warm weather hits and I can get more peppers going. So, and if you've never had an everything bagel with pimento cheese on it, that's really good. Of course, bagels are also good with just regular cream cheese, and then you put the hot pepper jelly on top of that. That's good too. And now I'm hungry. Thanks. Okay, hot peppers. So I've got 3 here. When we get to the seed shipment, I think I've got a couple more. So this is just a standard jalapeno called Goliath that I got last year. I generally try and grow one kind of regular hot jalapeno so I can do my hot pepper jelly. One year I actually got seeds for a purple jalapeno, which is kind of misleading because what happens is the peppers develop, if I remember correctly, they start out purple or just like a dark color, and then they ripen to just regular red kind of deal. So they don't stay purple unless you pick them early, which usually they didn't get to jalapeno size until they had already started turning colors to red. So they were okay. They weren't the biggest jalapenos I've ever had. And at least when it comes to my peppers, I'm kind of a size queen. So if I have to clean, you know, 3 or 4 teeny tiny little jalapenos as opposed to 1 or 2 regular jalapenos, I'd rather just do the 1 or 2. So, and then I got this. This is a lemon drop pepper. I think this is also similar to an ají, lemon ají pepper, I hope. It looked the same anyway, and it had the same kind of description, being fruity with good aroma. And somewhere along the line there was a little smoky. Maybe that was something else. But someone said that this makes good pepper jelly, hot pepper jelly, so I thought I'd go ahead and get some of those. All right, that's it for peppers, at least the stuff that I've already had. Eggplants. Not really a whole lot you can say about eggplants. I generally tend to like the fat Italian types to do like eggplant parmesans. Then I do the Japanese type, which are the long cylindrical ones that you chop up for like stir fries and things like that. So I've got 2 different varieties. This one that I got from Park Seed back in 2019 is called Amadeo. It's kind of like lighter purple. It's not the black purple like most eggplants are. And then if I'm remembering correctly, it has like white streaks going through it. And then, because I don't think I have many of the Amadeos left, I got another variety called Rosita, which is just a lighter purple. Same deal from Baker's Crate last year. So get those and basically do the whole eggplant parmesan. I'll get them, and if I'm feeling really like healthy, I will oven roast them as opposed to frying them, but the frying just, you know, that's the ultimate for me. So I do that. I'll make some was just on baba ganoush. Sometimes I'll make baba ganoush out of it, but eggplant is one of those things that it's kind of, it's almost forgettable sometimes unless you do just generally want eggplant parmesan. You can throw it in with stir fries, but it's kind of like tofu. It kind of takes on the taste of the other things that it's in with and blended with. So basically what I'll use eggplant for, if I'm not doing my beloved eggplant parmesan, it basically is just kind of fluff out what I've got. You know, I'll throw it into pasta sauce. I'll throw it into stir fries. Yeah, ratatouilles, that kind of stuff. Goulash. So pretty innocuous. They usually tend to grow well for me. They didn't do so well last year, mostly because I had a lot of flea beetles that just seemed to hit the eggplant last year, and the beans. But you know, normally, you know, I plant eggplant and I have eggplant coming out my ears. Not so much last year. All right, let's get on to the sexy vegetables, the tomatoes. So I have these kind of segregated into types of tomatoes. So I've got 3 different, what we'll call cherry/grape tomatoes. So my favorite grape/cherry tomato is a variety called Juliet. I have been growing this variety for 10 years now, I want to say, at least close to, if not to. So I've got a backup pack in case, you know, the pack I'm currently working on don't have enough seeds. But this variety, they're a type of grape tomato, so they have kind of the oblong shape to them. They're, depending on different factors and stuff like that, they'll either be, you know, a couple inches long to 3 or 4 inches long, and generally be about an inch and a half in diameter. They are a good tomato. If they were larger, I would use them as a slicing tomato. They have excellent, they have a nice sweet taste to them. They are got enough meat to them that I can actually use these guys for sauce tomatoes in the place of like San Marzanos and things like that. They're good for salsa. I will throw them, since they are already in kind of a small little spot anyway. If I just have a bunch of tomatoes that I have to process, but I don't have the time to do so, I will throw them into, I will either throw them onto my tray with the whatever barrier down to keep them from attaching to the tray, throw them onto the tray, throw the tray into the freezer, or I'll just throw them all into a big like gallon Ziploc bag, throw those into the freezer until, you know, 2 or 3 months later when I have the time and it's a little cooler and I can actually do it. I'll let them defrost in my sink. I'll get my little Victorio Squeezo thingy out, throw it in there, throw the tomatoes in there, process them so that the juice comes out one end and the skins and the seeds come out the other end, compost the seeds and the skins, and then put it on the stove, make pasta sauce or tomato sauce or whatever it is I'm going to make. So Juliet tomatoes, they grow well for me. They are like they literally were the last tomato that were going as of the first frost last year. Usually my tomatoes, they produce for so long and then they just dwindle and I either end up yanking them out or they die and I have to yank them out no matter what. But Juliet's, for whatever reason, they do well for me in my garden. So I highly recommend it. Another variety that I like, it doesn't have quite the same amount of lasting ability, but it's another kind of like a little, they're smaller kind of deal. They're maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, more round than the Juliets are oblong. But these are tomato berries. They actually look almost like little strawberries, orangey red strawberries. They're also very, very sweet, but they don't have the same disease resistances, at least in my garden, that Juliet does. But I always try and grow the tomato berries just because they taste good. And I go out, in the garden looking at stuff. I'll pick either Juliets or tomato berries and just go around eating them as I'm looking at stuff. I used to grow sun gold cherry tomatoes when I was like kid kind of deal. So they've been around that long. Haven't grown them in quite a long time. I've been seeing a lot of the YouTube videos of other established YouTube content creators and things like that who keep recommending sun gold, sun gold, sun gold. So I thought I'd go ahead and try a pack of sun gold and just see if I do like it or if it was just a bunch of hype. And I just realized I have a stain on my pink sweatshirt. Oh, I swear. All right, so the next variety, these are more of the sauce type tomatoes. I got a pack of San Marzano tomato seeds from MIGardener this year to give it a try. So the problem with naming vegetable varieties for areas of the country. So like when I go to the grocery store and I see Vidalia onions for sale, but they come from Peru or somewhere else in South America, I know those aren't Vidalia onions because only onions that are grown in Vidalia area in Georgia can be called Vidalia onions. So same thing with San Marzano tomatoes. They may be a paste type tomato, but I think they're just the variety of tomatoes that they grow in San Marzano as opposed to actually being the same quality and taste and all that kind of stuff as what grows in San Marzano, Italy. So I'm giving them a try, seeing if they do better than my Juliets, because the Juliets look kind of similar to that. They're probably not quite as long as that though. See how big do these guys get? 5 to 6 ounces. Yeah, I think the Juliets are like maybe 3 or 4 ounces in their prime. And then I got this variety called Bellatrix. Bellatrix, like the pumpkins we saw in the video yesterday. I like Harry Potter. I like the name Bellatrix, but doesn't have anything to do with Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter. One of the reasons why I got this is because of the disease resistance it has purported. And it did actually do pretty good. They were good, paste type looking. Rearrange that sentence however you'd like. And they did actually taste pretty good. What I got, I liked, and I don't know, 'cause it was a funky year last year. I didn't get a lot of tomatoes. I didn't get a lot of eggplants. We got such a strong, like a really dry, hot summer back, starting in June. Usually June is still pretty, we get quite a bit of rain and stuff like that. So just as these plants were getting started, I'm having to do, watering with drip irrigation and stuff like that. And yeah, you can water your garden as much as you like, but nothing is better than Mother Nature. 1/4 of an inch of rain does much better than any amount of spraying with a garden hose, drip irrigation, misters, whatever. Mother Nature does it better. And especially early on when they were first developing their roots, I just don't think the roots got down as far as they could because I was having to water artificially. And I don't want to do, I want weather to be semi-normal this year. How about that? Let's try for that. But the fruits that I did get from Bellatrix were good. They were tasty. I could also use them for, you know, just fresh eating, not just for sauce and that kind of stuff. All right, so that's the paste type tomatoes. So now we're going to talk about the slicers. I am still looking for the perfect slicer. I like more heirloomy type slicing tomatoes, but disease-wise, my biggest problem around here is late blight. So I am going to try and do, they've got these kinds of tomatoes. I've got a couple brands here that I have been liking, so we'll see how it goes. I would love to be able to get an open pollinated or an heirloom type variety of tomato that I could save seeds from, just in case the apocalypse occurs and I can't order from my usual sources anymore. But we'll see how these go. So I grew all 4 of these last year. The one I was most in love with, I guess, for want of a better word, is this hybrid called Purple Boy. It's a hybrid between Cherokee Purple, which is an heirloom, and I'm guessing one of like Better Boy tomatoes or something like that. It's more of the darker red purpley color that the Cherokee Purple gets, with more disease resistance and stuff like that. So this was the variety that I liked the most. But I also have to realize that it was a weird year for tomatoes last year. So I'm going to give all 4 of these another try, and then I'll make my decision. Second variety is a variety called Cherokee Carbon. Again, Cherokee Purple crossed with, I believe the tomato was just carbon or something carbon. It's also another one that's more of a purpley. This didn't do very well at all for me. And if I have to be honest, I didn't really see anything purpley about it for the Cherokee Purple. I think it was more of a red. So I kind of like the taste of the darker red tomatoes for some reason right now. So if we get the same deal with this one this year, I know I'm not going to get it anymore. Darkstar, this is just a hybrid tomato that has a good resistance for late blight, which we'll see how it does. I know it was a darker one. It didn't get as big for me. It was more of maybe a medium slice, medium slicer. I don't generally go for the big beefsteaks or anything like that. That just seems to take too much time and effort. And then it usually ends up rotting anyway and bugs get into it. So I try and just stay for the medium to large size. If I can get one, once upon a time I grew a tomato that fit completely in the palm of my hand and completely hid my entire hand. I was very proud of that. But yeah, peppers I'm a size queen for. Tomatoes, as long as they taste good, that's my deal. And then I tried this variety from Baker Creek called Blue Beauty. I looked at the color. I thought, ooh, that's so cool. The ones I got last year, they weren't very big, did not have as many tomatoes as the other varieties did. These would be more of the open pollinated variety, which that's what Baker Creek does. So I was very hopeful about these guys. But again, this has been a weird year. So last year was a weird year. So I may go ahead and give this one more try. One thing about Baker Creek, they give you quite a few seeds. I'm so used to seeds and such where you get 5. So, all right. So that's tomatoes. here are some of the things that I have on hand that I went through that I will probably not be growing anymore. And it's a kind of a shame because one of them is a brand new pack. No, that one's new. So beets. I have been trying for several years to successfully grow beets, and I finally figured out how to do it. I planted in that bed on the east side of the house so that it stayed a little bit more shaded, didn't get as hot as quickly, and they grew, and they actually gave me beets last year. So I had Crosby's Egyptian. I bought Detroit Dark Red for anticipation for next year. And then I had a variety called Lutz Winter Keeper. So I believe the ones I got were the Crosby's Egyptian. And I harvested a few of them. I brought them inside. I cut off the leaves and the roots. I washed them up real good. I threw them into the oven with some olive oil and salt and pepper on top of it. Threw it in there, roasted it, peeled off the skin. It was nice and soft. I sliced off a piece and it was like eating dirt. Did not taste good to me. And I'm thinking, because I've had beets before, like in salads and things like that, that tasted kind of like candy. I don't know if they were pickled or candied ahead of time, but I was led to believe that beets were inherently sweet anyway. And so again, one of those things, if it's one of those things where I just really don't like the product, I'm not going to spend as much time and effort on it. The second vegetable that I tried last year is shishito peppers. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's not that I didn't like it. It's just that one plant was more than enough for me. And if you don't go out and keep them picked, which for me, it turned out was an everyday encounter. You cannot let them start ripening, because once that happens, the skin starts drying up and becoming leather. The seeds get really hard, even when you put them, because basically what you do is you're supposed to pick them green. You're supposed to take them and throw them into frying pan with some olive oil, salt and pepper, maybe some garlic and stuff like that. Just wash them off, dry them off, put them in the pan and fry them up, stir fry them up until they're soft. And then you can dip them with like ranch dressing or just plain or however you want to do it. If you let them go too long and the skin starts hardening up and things like that, it's like eating shoe leather and then you're crunching on the seeds. Not good. And I don't eat that many peppers, and I really don't want to eat fried peppers on a daily basis. That's just, even for me, that's kind of too much oil. So the other thing is that for the most part, these guys are fairly mild. They got a little zip to them, but every once in a while, one of them is going to be hotter than Hades. And I don't know if I was just lucky, but for me, it was like when I was picking them and cooking them up, instead of like 1 out of 10 being hot, it was like 50% of them were hot. And so I'm sitting there with my mouth, basically flames coming from my mouth. So yeah, I'm not that adventurous with my food. So I decided, we're not going to do shishitos anymore. A flower that I'm not going to do anymore. This is a salvia called Flare. It's got a red flower. It grows. It's got a very vivid red flowers to it. And it just doesn't go with my scenario, my design of my garden. It was very jarring and, not the right fit for me. And they just really were just more fussy than the regular blue types of salvia that I'm used to. So I decided not to do them. And then I got this type of basil called African Nunum. that is used in salads and making vinegars and things like that. I grew some. I tasted a leaf. Could not tell that it was basil. It just tasted like grass to me. It just didn't thrill me. And then I have all these other kinds of basils growing around me, so I decided, we'll just stick with the kinds of things we got. So, okay, what are we doing? Okay. All right, we've gone over our half hour, so let's go ahead and stop here. I'll do part 3 of this one will be my seed haul, my final, well, I shouldn't say final seed haul, possibly a final seed haul for what I bought for 2023 will be part 3, and maybe do that for Monday. That one will probably be a short one because I only have like 20. Well, no, probably won't be a short one, which is why I'm not going to continue. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you for everyone who stayed through the entire 40-odd minutes. Part 3 tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.